Okay, so welcome to a new guide on this channel, and this occasion is the Digitakt or DIGITAKT machines. Everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee, you can. Everything is at the description. Right, so let's begin with the first one. The first machine is going to be the one shot. Now, if you go to function and standing on the SRC, function and SRC, which is the source, and then you will get the different options. The one shot is the one that we've been using, forever. And then this got an update and we have the other ones. And maybe you're starting, I don't know. So I'm going to be giving you a quick tour about the one shot, which is the classic one. And then we will discuss the other ones. Now, still, I've recorded a different guide about the whole device. You're going to find the links at the description or the cards, It's just a guide about everything. It's just, pretty long-ass guide. So on this one, on this unit, in this case, on this pattern, the number one is using a sample. And the sample I'm using, if I go to source, this is what we get. It's just a 4 in the floor. Super, simple sample. If I go to the amp is just all the way up. So the sample will just, play the whole length, of the sample. So if you're standing on the one shot, you have different options. You can tune it up. And if you do function, you're going to be locking to, octaves. So you can stand on your main octave. Then what you have a bit reduction, which is going to be a bit crusher, which just sounds really cool. Then you have your level, you have your different levels. And then the most interesting part on this one is going to be the start and the, the length and then the loop. So if I go to source, double tap it, what you can do with this one and this one is to select a different starting point for your sample. If I wanted to start right there, when I play it, it's just going to start the playback from there. Then you have this knob, which is going to be the length. Now, if I go down, notice it's just going to give me the ending point. So that's what you get. So when we play, it's just going to be playing the snare and the kick that we have right there. All right, so pretty easy, just a very standard options. Now I'm going to be putting it right here. Now then, if you press and hold the source, it's going to give you the values for all the different things. Now if I go back, all the different options that you have right here are the same options that you have right here in this section. The only difference is that you have a different view, right? So then you have all the options. You have the forwards, which is going to be the mode, and then you have the loop. So let me just show you how this works, and then we can talk about the other machines. So the default is the forwards. If I stand right here and go all the way to the right, we have nothing else. It's just going to be forwards. So this means that when I play whatever it is that we are sampling, we have the sample, it's just going to play it from the start and then go forwards. Now, if I go to other options, you can have forwards and loop. If I go to this one, it's forwards, but I'm holding it now. So it's just looping the same thing over and over again. That's, what it does. If I double, and notice that I'm not playing it and it's still kind of stuck right there. If you want to always stop the playback, it's just triple stop and it will stop the playback. If I go to a different option, right here, we can have the reverse. Now first, I'm going to go to reverse. So this, what we'll do, it will just play it in reverse. And if I do it in loop, it's just going to be the same thing, but in reverse. Cool. Triple stop, just going to kill it. If I go the other way, you're gonna get nothing. So reversed, then loop, and then forwards, loop, and then forwards. Now then you have the loop that by default is gonna be kind of a disable. You can play it, but it's just gonna do nothing if you're standing on this mode. Now notice that when I move the loop, it's just moving. But then we have this line, then we have the ending line, and then we have the loop, which is gonna be this. And for now, I'm just gonna be maybe putting it right here. And then I'm going to make this one smaller. If I play it, this is what happens. Nothing happens. But now, if I change the mode and we are using the loop modes, when I play it, it's going to loop whatever we enclosure between the loop and the ending of the sample. If I make it longer, it's going to, it's going to be longer. But this is what the loop does. Now again, triple dot. Then I'm going to go back to source. And if we do the same thing for reverse, we have the loop. So the loop will just, make sense. Just going to start looping that. All right. So this is, how it works. Now, all the other machines have different options, but they share some of the functions. So knowing the one shot, which is the classic one, it's super important. Okay, so I'm using the same loop than before, which is going to be that, that kick and snare. And now we need to talk about the other machines, and we're going to start with the Werp. Right, so we've been using the drum loop as an example. Now, the loop, the raw loop that I've been using, which is again this one, is by default 120 BPMs. Now, if you use the one shot, this, if I change the tempo, it will just not get it in sync. This is one of the main reasons why we get the Werp and we get the repitch. And I just can, I can prove this. If I go to the function and I go to the one shot, I'm going to stay right there. And I'm just going to be adding a trigger. So if I play it back, we have the sample. And notice that it's kind of playing perfectly because the sample is 120 BPMs. And right now we are on 120 BPMs. But if I, change the sample or change the BPMs, maybe I'm going to do it 110, maybe 15. Nah, I'm going to go to 10. So I'm going to get out and now it's 110, but the sample is one shot and it's 120. So it's going to be a little bit of offsetting right here. If I play it, right? So there you go. It's going to be, we have a space right here. So yeah, that's what happens. So that's why we have the other ones. The other ones will try to kind of stretch different parts or stretch the whole sample to match whatever tempo that you have. Now on this one, maybe 110 is too much. It's going to be a little bit challenging because, depends on the sample. I'm going to be going out. So remember the sample was 120 and this one is 115. I'm triggering once, and if I go right here, we are using the Werp. I'm going to be playing it, and notice it sounds funky. All right. So the thing is that we have different options. What this does behind the scenes is going to take the whole sample and it's going to chop it in different pieces. Now, if you go to the manual, it's going to say that it's going to chop it in multiple segments. That's the actual name, the technical name. And then each segment, what it does is going to try to align it with the tempo. In this case, it's 120, but we are using 115. So it's going to try to attempt to kind of fit the tempo that we are using. So I'm using a percussive, type of sample, just to give you an example. But if you're using something else, it's just maybe, it depends on what you're using, depends on the sample. It might, work a little bit better, or maybe just, it would not work. So now, if I play it, it sounds super choppy. Now, it's going super slow. So this is because if I go to the options, we need to control the options that we have right here. It says that 4 bars. So I'm going to make it 1 bar. Now the mode is going to be forwards, and we have 2 modes now. On the other one, on the one shot, we have 1. Now we have 2. We're going to talk about this in a minute. And then we have the sec. So this is the segments. How many times is going to be chopping that sample? So depends on the sample, and it always depends on the sample. You need to check it if 32s, 16s, or 1/8. It's just going to be the right amount of chopping or segments. So if I play it now, this is a little bit glitchy, but it's just a lot better. So if I still go to a different, and this is just not the right. It's just super glitchy. So depends on what you're using. This is just going to, work a little bit better. In the case of this sample, 1/8 is just fine. And 1 bar is fine. If I go to different values, it's just going to sound a little bit, not the right way. It's just not going to sound good. Now, we are using a lonely trigger. So as soon as we play this, it's going to play back the whole sample. And now, again, is stretching it to fit the 16 steps that we have with this BPM. So we need to talk about these 2 options that you have right here. The mode. Why do you get a second mode? You already have it right here at the top. And why do you get bars? Now the sample I'm using right now is just 1 bar, right? So if I go to 1 bar and I play it back, it's just gonna work, right? So that's how it works. Now, the bars, what it will do, it will kind of try to make the sample last more bars than it's supposed to, right? So we have 1 bar of the sample, which is the raw sample. And if I go to 2 bars, now it's gonna go a lot slower. So if I play it back from the beginning, notice it's just going slower. It's kind of doing it half tempo. If I don't do it with this, if I stop the playback and just do it with my hand, and it just keep holding, it's just gonna last twice, because we are saying that now it lasts 2 bars instead of 1. The raw sample is just 1. Now, it always depends on the sample that you're using. So you can use 4 bars. It's just going to be super slow for this one because it's just 1 bar long. So it's just kind of converting 1 bar to 4 bars. That's what's going on in the background. And then you can go up to 8 bars. This example, 1 bar is just gonna, work. You always need to check this with whatever sample that you're trying to use. And then you have the different modes. And this one is kind of the most interesting part of this machine. Now, we know that when we play it back, when we trigger the mode, it's going to decide how the sample is going to be played. So if I maybe go to forwards or maybe reversed, if I go there, when I play it back, it's just going to be playing it from reverse. But notice how it's just, kind of doing it. It's doing it in segments. It's because this machine works like that. It does it in segments, all the different segments that we have right there. But right now, it's just saying forwards. So it's attempting to play it forwards. We can hear that, but at the same time, it's just kind of doing it kind of backwards. So, okay, so for now, I'm gonna be going right here and just show you forwards. So by default, the mode is gonna be forwards. If I play it, everything is gonna be cool. Now, I'm gonna be changing this one, and I'm gonna be doing backwards. So if I play it back now, I'm gonna go, right here. If I play it back, it's gonna play it forwards, but every segment that we get is gonna be playing it backwards or in reverse. And this is very cool. Right now, maybe it's not the best example because we have a lonely trigger that will last, the whole bar. But maybe you can add some param blocks and just, do it on a different way. So I'm going to say stop. I'm going to go to source right here. I'm going to make sure that this trigger by default is forwards. So if we play it, it's just going to be the same 16 steps. Now I'm going to enter grid recording and I'm going to do function and maybe add some param blocks right here. Now on this ones, we can change, different things because remember it gets triggered right here, and the sample is going to last pretty much everything. So each param block, we can, change the different mode, and whatever that segment is going to play it back, forwards, or, whatever it is that you want to do. So I'm going to be holding this and I'm going to be changing it to, reverse. On this one, I'm going to be making it reverse looped, and I'm just, going randomly right here. And this one, I'm just going to leave it maybe forwards, but I'm going to be making it 2 bars, and I'm going to add another trigger right here, and I'm just going to be making it 1 bar, just, just to go back to default. So now if I play it, right, so this is kind of the main vibe for this one, if you ask me. And right here, we just can go crazy and do whatever we want. Maybe this one, I don't know, it's going to be whatever, reverse loop. And then at some point, I'm going to need to do the same. Maybe I'm going to do it here. It's just 1 bar. All right, maybe right here. I'm just going to be maybe forward. I'm just going to make it 1. Notice it just, we get that type of glitchy sound. Maybe right here, 8 bars is just a little bit too much. I'm just going to leave it on 1 bar. I like it a little bit more. And just like this, you can go crazy. That's, the main point. Just create unusual sounds. Not just use it to adjust it to the BPM, right? Now, again, this is just a simple example, and it depends on your sample. In my case, it's just a very dumb and raw sample, kick and snare. But if you have something a little bit more complex, you can have more to play with right here. And right here and right now, you just need to load some samples and do some exploring. If we go to the other options, everything else is just gonna work just like the ones we have on the one shot, right? So we have the bit reduction. Again, we can param block that if you wish. And then the play modes are going to be pretty much the same. Everything just stays the same. Okay, so now we need to discuss the repitch. And this one is my favorite. I'm going to go to yes and just select that one. And we have, some of the options that we know and some of the other options that we have on the previous one, on the Werp, right? So, okay, so right now I'm using the same sample than before. It's going to be that 4 in the floor. So if I play it back, it's going to sound like that. Yeah, I know. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to stop it. So remember, that's going to be the 4 in the 4 sample. If I go back, remember now we have the bars. And this sample is just 1 bar long. If you watch the previous machine, the Werp, we know that the bars, what we will do, we'll take the sample and just extend it so it can last more bars depending on the tempo that you have. So right now, it's 4 bars and it sounds pretty crappy because it's just stretching it. So I'm going to go to 1 bar. And if I play it back, we just get it. Okay, so I have a trigger right here in the grid mode. So if I play it back, this one, the repitch, will just pretty much do the same thing than the Werp, but it does it on a completely different way. The Werp is going to chop it in segments, and then it's just going to try to match that to the tempo. Remember, this one is 120 and this one is 115. So if I play it back, it's kind of again, trying to sync it. Right, so always depends on the sample. But this one, what we'll do, it will stretch the whole sample. It's not using segments. So if I speed up the tempo, you're going to be hearing all this. I'm going to be playing it back, and I'm going to go to the tempo. If I go faster, this is adjusting it behind the scenes. But also it's changing the pitch. This is what it does. That's why it's called repitch. It's a different method, different way of sampling this. And if I go down, it's matching the tempo, but it's going really slow. I mean, it's going, it's detuning, to pretty low pitch. Now, always when you're working with samples, it's always just better if you're maybe have a 120 BPM type of project. If you're loading a sample, maybe trying to make it to 110. Or maybe just trying to match the BPM, just gonna work a little bit better. But this is, the main vibe of this one. It's just gonna be matching whatever tempo that you have. I'm gonna keep it in 120, which is the same as the raw sample, because we need to discuss the other options that we have available. So I'm gonna be playing back. Remember, the Vars is going to kind of play it right now in half tempo. Just gonna divide it. It's gonna be longer. You can go to 4 and 8, and it's gonna sound really weird. But again, depends on the sample. Now, the other cool thing that this has is going to be the start, and it's going to be the, the length. Just like the one shot on this one, we can select a portion of whatever it is that we want to play back. If I go to the start and the end, maybe I can select this. Now, the cool thing about this one is that is what happens. Since I'm making it longer, and I go to the main, settings, and it says 1 bar. So that tiny little bit of, portion, which is the kick and snare, is going to last 1 bar. Right? So again, that's the main vibe. Now I could just make it longer. It's just going to be a little bit faster. But if I go all the way down, all the way up, it's just going to do that. But this by default is going to adjust or repitch it based on, whatever it is that you're selecting right here. Now, this is just a 1 bar sample. So if I had, for example, maybe on 8 bars or maybe 4 bars, we can just, chop a tiny little piece, and this will, adjust it to 1 bar. And then with the starting and the ending, we just, get what we want in this case. Now, this one is my favorite of all the new machines because you can create really cool sounds. Maybe if I do something like this, right? So we can, create different sounds just with this and not just, trying to repitch to everything that we are doing. And notice that you don't get your tune right here. You cannot repitch it manually. It's all based on in the tempo. All right, so then you get your different play modes, which we already know, and then your bit reduction, which we already know. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way down and all the way up. So if I play it back, we just get the 4 in the floor. Now, if you want to grab a sample and just kind of match it to whatever BPM, I think the repitch is just, the best option. Now, this one will work just like your DAW sampler. Maybe you decide to slice it and you automatically slice your sample and the machine, the DAW will just detect and just slice it for you. Well, this one works pretty much the same, but it's going to slice it based on a grid that you have right there. So the grid is going to decide how many parts you have, and you can go all the way up to 64 and all the in-betweens. This is how much times you're slicing. Now if I stand right here, right now we have 4, we can chop it on 8, 16, and then 32, 64. So all of this depends on the sample and how long it is and everything else. Now, what's the point of this? I'm gonna stay on 4 for now. The main point is that if I play it, that's what happens. I'm pressing and holding it. The amp is all the way up, but it's just playing a part. It's not playing everything. Now, if I go to source, it's just playing the first part. Remember, we have a 4 in the grid. So when I play it, or we just trigger the sample, it's just going to be playing the first slice, because we have a slice of 4. If I go back to the source, then you have the other options. So then you have the slice and then you have the len. For now, I'm just going to keep it to 1. So I'm going to go to the slice. Now on this one, what you can do, you can choose or just, select which slice you want to play. But now, by default, it's just going to be 1. So if I play the 1, just the same one. But now I can change it to the second slice, and now it's going to be triggering that slice, which is going to be the second. If I go to the third, it's going to do the third, and fourth is just going to go to the fourth. Now remember that you can change the grid. So if I make more slices, you can have more to choose from. Now, if you, in this case, we are making it, I'm going to go to 8. So maybe I want to play the slice number 1, right? But it's just a part of whatever it is that we have right here. Now in this case, what you can do when you go to source, you have the len. So right now it's on 1. So when we play the sample, it's just going to play 1, segment. Now you can choose 2, and it's just going to be playing 2, or it's going to be playing 3, or it's just going to play 4, and so on, and so on. So this will go all the way up. But since you have 8, it's just going to be playing 8. But you can, decide what you want to play. And all of this is just super useful because now you can use the slide, you can use the len, and maybe, even all the other options just to add maybe param locks and just create something. Now I'm going to go random right here. I'm just going to stay on 8, and I'm going to say length of 1, and I'm going to be playing the slice number 1. So when I trigger this, if I record it, if I play it, just going to be triggering the first one. But we can add more tricks. And then, by param locking, doing a little bit of param locking, I can change to different slices. Maybe on this one, I'm going to be making it a length of 2. And there you go. That's, the power of the slice on this device. So on this one, I'm going to be doing, I don't know, 6. That one sounds cool. I'm going to make it a length of 4, 2 instead of 4. And just like this, you can add param locks just to make it, a little bit more fun. All right, that's fine. Okay. Now also remember that when you have the play mode, so if on this one, I make it reversed, when we hit this one, it's going to be reversed, but just for this one. Right? So super cool. Maybe on this one, I can just add a little bit of bit reduction and maybe do it forwards or reversed. All right. So again, just really creative. That's the word. All right, so those are all the different modes. You get the classic one, the one shot. That one is, the one you will use the most. But then the other ones, they will give you a different thing. And they are here also to solve some of the problems or issues that we had, especially when working with a certain BPM. And the slice certainly just gives you a lot of flexibility. So you just can use it in a creative purpose, or just use it to maybe match the BPM and fix that problem. Okay, so that's it. So if you learned something on this one, remember to like and subscribe. And if you have the money and you just maybe want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks, you can go to the links at the description. And you have links for PayPal, you have YouTube thanks, and you have Patreon. Maybe you can be just a 1-month Patreon and just buy me a coffee that way. All right, so see you on the next one.